Bully Girl podcast. It's the one and only Dr. Taylor here, bringing some of the hottest topics to the bully community straight to your ears. This is episode 7 of the BGM podcast and is sponsored by Snubbies. On today's podcast, we have some very special guests and a really unique topic. We have Brittany Renew here with us, which is new-ish to the bully community. She has specific questions in regards to handling and breeding. And then we have Molly Fuchs here and Tristan Baptiste here with Bluenote. And they are pretty much pros. They've been in the game for quite some time, and they are here to answer any questions that myself and Brittany may have. So welcome to the podcast, everyone. How are y'all doing?
Good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So Brittany, if you want to jump right on to it with the first question.
Got you. Again, my name is Brittany, guys. I do thank you guys for just jumping in and answering my questions as well. Because I am a little bit newish, but I'm still getting used to it. So I do want to ask, and again, this is usually what I have for, anybody, whenever I'm talking to a breeder or a handler, what actually inspired you to start doing it? What gave you that motivation to say, hey, I want to be a breeder. I want to be a handler.
You want me to go first? You want to go?
You go first.
Okay. So as far as inspiration, what kind of got me started was, so I was always like this big fan of bull breeds from a young age, but I was really crazy about dogs. I used to adopt stray dogs off the street. So my mom and them used to they used to laugh at me and stuff when I was young. But and my mom used to always be like, oh, he's gonna be a veterinarian and he's gonna be this and that. And long story short, I ended up there was this old man behind my house. He had a pit bull, and some kind of way the dog got pregnant, and he gave me a puppy. So he had given me my first dog. Well, all my friends were doing some inappropriate things with their dogs. And for me, I just wanted my dog to be all pretty, and I was grooming my dog, and I wanted my dog just to be the best looking dog on the block. It ain't got to do nothing. Just got to look better than everybody else's dog. And that's kind of where I started with that. As far as the handling for me, because I'm actually a handler. I'm more of a handler than a breeder. I don't breed very often. She is the breeder, the planner, all this stuff like that. I just present the dogs and make sure that they look like they're supposed to look. So with the handling, I got my first dog. I looked it up on Google, and my first dog I had ever saw, I think it was Lucky Luciano. So I saw him on Google, and I was like, oh man, I love these dogs. And I'm still thinking they're pit bulls. And long story short, I bought my first dog for $500. And that wasn't a show dog, clearly, but then I bought another one. I saved up a lot of money. I actually took out a loan, matter of fact. I took out a loan and put up my car as collateral. And I went and got a dog. So if my mama see this, mama, that's what happened. So I put up my car as collateral. She still don't know to this day. So if she ever see it, she's going to find out. But
she's going to see it.
Okay, well, so I put up my car. I bought my first dog, my first real dog to me. And his name was Hogs by You Buckshot Lock and Load. And I took that dog and I won best of breeds and all kinds of stuff right out the gate before I had even known what I was doing. I knew nothing. So I was on there trying to figure it out. And I left the show early, actually. And I was just telling her the story. I left the show early because I didn't know that after you win, you're supposed to stay and keep going. So I had one with 2 blue ribbons. And I was like, yes, I got my ribbons. Going home. And I went home. So and then somebody else, I went to my second show and he just swept the whole show. He took best in breeds and all that stuff. And a guy named Terrell, y'all probably don't know him, but he an old school guy. And he was just like, man, he said, man, you got a champion. You don't even know your dog a champion. And I'm looking at all the ribbons piled on top of my dog's cage. And I'm like, he is? I still didn't even have a clue at that point. But once I got home, my mom's such a supportive lady. I got home, got to her, she manages a hotel. So I got to her hotel and she started just taking pictures and, oh, look at my baby doing this and doing that. And from that day forth, I just fell in love with it. I ain't looked back since.
I love it. That's a story. Let's hope your moms don't give you hell.
You did what?
I think that's why we get along so good. Is because by any means necessary, we're gonna do this with our dogs. It's we got a good thing together. But as far as breeding for me, I've always loved dogs. I grew up with dogs, and You know, I got affiliated with the bull breed, and it's, you know, I went with pit bulls first, and
Here's his pits.
yeah, I had a little website, you know, with my last name and the pits and all that. I was young, and it was just, it's always been a passion to do this, and I never knew that I would ever take it this far, but it's always been my passion to be a breeder and to have the dogs, and you know. That's it.
How long have you guys been doing it? Like, start out.
So total, I think we're looking at like 30 years for both of us to combine. Me, I started right out of high school, like as far as with my approach with the bullies and stuff like that. So I'm about to say my age, but I'm young. So 10 years. So out of high school, that was just my 11 years now because I graduated in 2012. So like I've been really like heavy into it then. I didn't really understand the full aspect of like what all really went into it. I just knew how to take care of a dog. Like I knew how to take care of a dog. I was gonna do everything I could to make my dogs look the best. I'm talking about when I was feeding kibble, boy, I was trying everything, just trying to make sure these dogs look like they're supposed to look. And of course, I mean, she got 20 years. I mean, she got dogs in Russia and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I mean, that was.
I was sending pit bulls to Canada back when I was 26, and I'm a lot older now.
When she was 26, I ain't gonna tell you my age, but I was young. I was a baby. I wasn't old enough to have no dog, so.
I got you. So, to become kennel partners, like what? Like, how did you guys how did you meet?
That's a good question. So actually, I hated her. I wanted to just. I really did. I
beat him.
So the way. Listen now, before we go too far, the way that this happened was I had a best friend at the time named Xavier Biles. He ain't my best friend no more, but he was. We had a dog that would later be known to be 2019 number one dog in the country and Grand Champion Hove. 2019 ABKC top dog. Long story short, I had that dog at 6 months old. She had her dog, Grand Champion Otis, which is by Doobie's uncle. She had him in the same age group. And we went to compete against each other, and I lost. And I didn't say nothing, but I just kicked a little dirt, and I was like, you know what? Okay, whatever. That was a fluke. She got lucky. But then I go to Alabama. She beat me again. And then we go to Pensacola, Florida, and her dog becomes a grand champion before my dog does. So now I'm really mad. I'm livid. I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to be friends. I don't want to be cool. None of that. So I reveled in every opportunity to beat her. And
I didn't even know he was doing all of this.
She didn't know I didn't like her. So she invited us into her booth. She's like, yeah, y'all can come sit in my booth with me. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm asking Xavier, this wasn't in my mind, this is out loud. I'm like, why are we going to sit in this booth with this stupid ass lady? Like, I don't want to sit with her. So that's how I'm that competitive. Like, it's in my heart like that. So over time, things started going south with Xavier and the group of guys that I was with, and I was pretty much pulling all of the weight for them. And she actually told me this recently. This really warmed my heart. She said the only reason Hove won top dog was because of you. If we would have been partners back then, Otis would have been the number one dog in the country, which is very true because Otis beat us every time we competed against him. But, you know, she has a big operation, so it was her and her dogs. And, I mean, who else could say they had the greatest handler in the game at the time, you know? So, I mean, but no, seriously, like, so we met through that because through my tribulations with them, as the stuff was going south with my old partners, I would just call her. I did a breeding to Otis at one point. And they were looking at me stupid. My other partners were like, oh, why are you doing a breeding to that dog and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I like the dog. Well, my first breeding with him, I got ABKC Grand Champion OJ, which is his son. So I produced a Grand Champion right away using him. And we just since the breeding had happened, she started calling more because she would check in on the puppies. We would talk more. And the more we talked, the closer we got. And it just got to a point where I hated them and I started loving her. And now we're best friends. And we've been best friends since then. Everything, like, I'm talking about laughing, crying, arguing, screaming, yelling, planning breedings, all that, like, every day.
And you didn't give her a chance at first because you was salty. Because she was taking home the wins in different states.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, it is what it is. Whatever.
That's actually a really beautiful
Well, it's
story,
really
though.
weird.
I'm glad that y'all found
Because
each
when
other.
people see us at
Because we're
shows,
so much, we're different too. We're two totally different people.
I'm talking about
from two totally different places, and for us to come together
Yeah.
like that, and we do work very well together.
so we'll go to dog shows and people will whisper in my ear and say, "Hey Tristan, you and Molly dating?" And I'll be like, "Bro, no, we not dating. Like we just best friends. Like we are genuinely best friends." And like this is the first person that not first person, because I got some friends from high school, but I'm saying, let's say the first woman that I've ever been best friends with. Like, so that was like, it's a weird dynamic because a lot of times we don't see eye to eye because our perspective on everything is different. Like, I'm really stern with the dogs. At first, when I first got here, she didn't like that because it came off hard. And one thing that she would always say, she'd be like, he's so mean to them, but they love him so much. I don't know why they're so crazy about him. But we were just talking about how, like, a lot of times, like, I hate to say it, but sometimes people come off as being emotional, and I take all my emotions out when it comes to the dogs. It's just straightforward. This is what it is. This is what it ain't. I'll love on you later. And of course, you see, she'll do all the loving. Our first show with her, I couldn't even take the dog in the ring because she kept looking for her. Like, it was terrible. So that's why the second show, which was an ICBR show in South Carolina, I was like, you stay your ass at home. I'm taking the dog. And then once the dog spent the day with me and realized, like, okay, he's not bad. He's just kind of tough. And now
she's cool.
Yeah.
When I'm around, I don't have to hide anymore because she's confident with him. She's like, oh, he's got me.
Yeah, so, like, actually, we took her to a show in Pensacola, and she's became an ABKC Grand Champion in 3 events. A Grand Champion in 3 events. That's the quickest Grand Champion I've ever put out there. Like, so that went from first weekend out, she became a champion. Her second weekend out, she finished half their stuff to become a Grand Champion. Third weekend out, she a Grand Champion. And she beat a lot of dogs that are only like 1 win away, 2 wins away. She had 0 and went and just swept it off. So,
well, let's not just like slide past the fact that you won Best in Show with her when you went to Spartanburg, South Carolina too. Let's not just avoid that.
On the wall right there. So that was honestly speaking, that was when I realized, like, oh, we really might have something. Because at first, I was just like, okay, it's a nice dog, and we knew she was nice, but we didn't think she was like super nice. We think we lost Brittany, so she bad. Mm-hmm. So we didn't realize how nice she really was. I mean, we would say it at home, but we were just like, no, it ain't nothing. And we do an ABKC show first? I think we did. So she champed out, and I was like, okay, let's try ICBR. We go there, and of course the unthinkable happened, and I'm sitting there like I'm nervous. Like I do get nervous, but just when it get higher up in the shows, like when you get the best in breed, best in show, of course I get a little nervous by that point. But I've been in so many up to this point, I don't know why I still get scared, but whatever. When I had her then, I was just like, man, I mean, she's okay. But when we got the best in show, and then after I looked at her, I'm like, this dog really that nice? Is she that nice? And I started asking myself, we come home, and she's like, funny story about that. I'm gonna tell you about this because it's a story behind that day. That day in particular, her son passed away. Don't cry. Her son passed away in transport to somewhere else. Like, we had let him go. He was going to a new home, and he passed away that day. And long story short, like, she was like super emotional, and she wasn't even trying to have it. I'm like, what could make your day better? Now, this is the friend talking to me. I'm like, what could make your day better? I was like, if I do win a best in show, you gonna feel better? And she was like, she's crying still, like, yes, I'm gonna feel better. So we go and do it, and I'm like, we're really close. We go do it and win, and it made me feel so good. Like, I had to cry myself because it made me feel amazing to like call back and say, yo, we did it. And believe it or not, all these years, it's been like a real uphill battle to like get to where we are because of the fact some people call it politics, some people call it this and that, but we've had dogs that should have been way further than what they were. And this is just a funny coincidence that this is the one. Then she probably ain't the best dog we produced either, but this the one that just started carrying us a long way. And now, here we are. So, I mean, that's that.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw you at that show. I was there taking pictures for our magazine, and you should have heard everyone out just watching. All the spectators were like, damn, that's a bad bitch. She's dope. She's dope. And then the way that you were handling her, it looked like y'all have known each other and been that close forever. And there were even people that were salty because they lost against her, which was a male. And then the handler was like, I ain't gonna hate man, she bad. And then he got that, and then he just walked out and left. I was like,
Yeah. Like, funny enough, like with her, when she was really young, actually, you said been knowing her forever. That's a funny story, too, because it was a coincidence. I was actually visiting Molly the day she was born. So she was just born. Like, Molly was just coming back from the vet in the room calling my phone, like, Tristan, can you bring a fan? The mama's overheating, Lily's overheating, Lily's overheating. That was her mom. And, of course, I brought the fan to her, and I remember seeing that litter the day they were born. Now, little did I know that she was going to be what she is, but I was, it's just, I don't know. I guess the rest is history because I was like,
but
right
you
there.
came to see her at all stages.
Even when she was ugly, when she was terrible. And I was like,
a little ugly stage.
I was like,
Don't do her like that.
I do it with every dog. Like, I treat every dog really, really hard.
Like tough, right? And that is a nice story though. Like, it's inspiring for me as well. I do it again. My dog, I didn't handle her myself whenever she did jump out. It's always been like a thing for me at first, and like I'm leaning more towards wanting to do it. It's pretty much said. She's so lovely, and I'm scared she's not gonna focus how she would with a handler that she here with they're loving on all day long. So what are your tips for that? I mean, as far as like trying to get your dog out of that, okay, I want to be loved on right now, mama. Like,
yeah. I almost said
something. Good luck. Right? Good luck.
That way you can love on him and then you can give him to him.
So let me ask you this: were you
have some training?
Would you want to handle yourself? Like,
I do want to handle, even if it's, just even practicing, even like maybe doing it with, another dog, like actually just becoming like a handler. I mean, I would love to handle, Xena myself versus having to get a handler, but I think it's just that having that tough love with it, like, okay, I can't baby you anymore because she's almost 2, so it's like she's at that age, like I've been doing it for so long, so.
Well, I can say that like my first dog, the one that I was telling you about, Buckshot, I actually I hired a handler for ABKC Nationals, and it was a guy that I was with. He was like, "Man, why?" He was like, "Bro, are you crazy? Why would you give your dog to somebody else? He's so good with you. What's wrong with you?" And I was nervous because I was like, "Well, I need a handler. I'm not quite there." And the dog was terrible. So if that dog was that good with somebody else, I can honestly say, imagine how good it'd be with the person that raised it and like really put the time into the dog. So what I would say, if you want to really get into handling, like I would really say like just create times where you take all the emotion out, like completely, all the affection, everything. Just I'm talking about as if it's almost like, what are you doing?
Peeing on his toy.
Okay. Anyway, take all of the emotion out, like, and just try to. So I don't know if y'all familiar with SpongeBob, right? But there was this episode of SpongeBob where he was like trying to become he was trying to get fine dining in his head, and Squidward told him to empty his mind of everything that's not that. So if you can literally take everything that, even the relationship with the dog, all that, just take it out and only focus on handling the dog in 10-minute increments every day. Just trying to like get your technique right, studying your dog and what flaws is like there in front of you, and just taking those opportunities to say, because as a handler, our job, honestly, it sounds bad, but it's to hide flaws. Like, we have to present the dog in the best manner possible. So if a dog got straight stifles, if you can lean into it a little bit, if you can, anything, and the goal is to have dogs where you can free stack and just don't touch them and they, doing their thing. But when you have dogs that need to be presented a certain way, just studying your dog every day. Studying, like when you see her go in the yard and she'll stack on her own and look at something, look at that and say, how can I simulate that in the ring? How can I get that same look in the ring? A lot of people use their bait to stretch their dog out real good. Like when you're baiting a dog, I use it more as a sense of direction. So like I don't make the dog stretch more. So I try to stretch them myself and then use the bait to guide their head in an angle where it highlights and accentuates the neck, and like just things like that can really show the dog's expression. Another key is having the right bait. That goes for anything, like using the right bait. I'll let her talk about that.
Well, I want to say this too. What helped me a lot, and I'm by no means what he is in a handler, but I did handle several dogs to their championship and grand. But what helped me the most in the beginning with handling and getting over the fear and all of that was handling somebody else's dog. Because there wasn't as much, I mean, it was pressure, but it was a different kind of pressure. And I was able to relax more because I wasn't so concerned with winning with my dog and oh my God, it's my dog, I have to make her look good.
It's cool if I lose.
But with,
right.
with just some person with just an average dog that just needs a handler, nothing special, you can go in there, you can relax and you're not nervous and you can actually do some things. That's what helped me to get over my fear of actually just going in the ring is using somebody else's dog just for practice, really,
That's definitely a good tip. Thank you. I know that's kind of iffy too. You don't have experience. Like I don't show my
Hey,
dog.
something that's crazy though? The worst feeling is going back to that owner if you lose and saying, "Man, I don't know why they lost. Man, I'm sorry."
But that's somebody that just has an average dog.
I've done that before, and I don't know what to tell them. I'm just like, man, like maybe the judge just didn't like him.
I'll try that. I keep you guys up to how it goes. So, I know another question too because I am. I'm actually wanting to breed Xena as well. I haven't. I did a while back. I missed her last heat, but what tips would you give somebody that is breeding for the first time? What challenges did you not have come across? You're like, oh, your eyes got big, so I'm taking.
The list
You'll
goes.
always have challenges with every breeding.
List some of them. Let's see.
I mean, there's
Let's
just
go
so
from
many.
stuck puppies and C-sections, mastitis, almost killing your dog, losing whole litters. I mean, the challenges
Not
go.
taking to begin with.
Yeah, so the first step.
Bad vets with bad timing and.
Yeah, I think the first step, as far as breeding. So you hadn't done any breedings yet?
First step is to find you a great reproduction vet, not just a regular vet. You need a repro vet. Somebody that's not going to make you feel bad for coming in because your dog is pregnant.
Right.
Somebody,
there are lots and lots of stories about that.
To be successful. So that's most important. If you don't have that, it's very tough.
Second is finding a stud that really, really accentuates and complements your female. And the people don't always understand, well, what complements my girl. They don't want to, they'll have a female that lacks a lot of type and they'll breed it to just a big name stud. Not saying that big name studs are wrong, but saying that they'll breed it to a big name stud off of just the dog's accolades or how well that stud was promoted, rather than a stud that's known to produce what their female is lacking. So I don't want to say any names, so I won't say any names, but I can say, I'm going to just throw it out, let's just say my dog, Grand Champion OJ. Grand Champion OJ wasn't known for really adding too much substance to females. Whereas his brother, Tyrone, you can breed that stuff at almost anything, and he has a lot of substance, a lot of type, a lot of mass, a lot of neck. The difference between those two studs, even though they were related, the difference between the two is one was line bred, which means the blood that created him is in there 5, 6, and 7 times. So he'll have a better chance at giving you the desired effect rather than a dog that was scatterbred, that was one time this, one time that, fluke, got lucky, good dog. I mean, from there, doing the breeding, if you don't do the breeding at a repro vet, she just fussed at me the other day about sterilizing your AI kits and not cross-contaminating. That's another thing, because pyometra is real, and that should sneak up on you in a heartbeat, from just about anything.
Any little thing.
I mean, and it's levels to it. So from there, something new that we had to incorporate is once your female does take, once the milk start coming in, massaging the boobs to make sure that the milk is still flowing, make sure there's no lumps and knots, because if you don't, you might have a more serious issue on hand that could kill your litter, or your puppies called mastitis. I mean, I'm sure we all know what that is. But, you know, next level from there is a good diet for your female. Like a really good diet will put you miles and miles ahead when it comes to the puppies, the way they look, how big they are, how healthy they are, like as far as their immune system, everything. The mama's gonna be healthier, she's gonna produce better milk, she's gonna, you know, and the puppies are gonna get.
All starts with the diet.
So get there, let's go.
Yeah, that was one of my questions I had as far as like, you know, what diets, like, you know, have you like maybe seen that are better than others or anything, you know, recommend?
I am all raw, and I have been for 14 years. And so I couldn't even tell you what's a good kibble. I can't give any recommendations. To me, it's all bad, even the best, even the most expensive. And I'm actually cheaper than the most expensive brand of kibble, which is funny.
So, you know, long story short,
they need that nutrition to thrive. And when they're thriving, all the rest of it's just going to fall into place.
Yeah, we had dogs that would come. If you ever notice dogs that are like eating heavy kibble, especially the really, really big dogs. So we had a client dog come by, who's actually a grand champion as well. And I took him to a show. He was on kibble. And he stayed for a couple weeks. He was on kibble. And like, from like, when you touch him, his coat was like kind of like gritty. And it was like, it would leave like a thick residue on your hand. And like, he would go use the bathroom. If a dog eats a bowl of kibble that's this big, you know, typically their poop is going to come out just as big because they're not really processing anything. It's just going in them, going out, going in, going out. So, you know, with that dog in particular,
that dog's owner's calling us.
We ain't live, are we? So, typically with dogs like that, what you'll get is a dog that looks good, but it could look great. You know, a dog that may be big, but it's soft. It's not big and muscular. It's not hard. So a lot of times we did a little experiment with that dog. We took him to a show. We lost with him. We kept him on raw for 2 weeks. Went to another show. Looked like a totally different dog. He almost swept the whole show. Every show was winning best in shows back to back. So I mean, yeah, he was beating her. So I guess the moral of the story is, in our opinion, a raw diet trumps anything.
Everything. And that's just from experience and their blood work. You know, anytime I ever have blood work done at the vet, wow, this best blood work I've ever seen. Your dog's in really good health.
Or getting dogs collected, and like Tyrone gave, you know, his semen is in the billions, and he gave enough semen off of one collection to breed 7 dogs, like off of one collection. That was with no teaser, female or nothing. That was just straight him running to a bag and getting it done. So I mean, like, the raw diet, it not only helps them, like, you know, as far as the way they look, but it helps internally. I mean, so that's with your puppy's development, their growth, all that stuff like that.
Their immune systems, everything.
And even transition in the puppies, you know, she has this special thing that she makes when you transition puppies, and it's like a mix of like rice cereal, goat's milk, liver broth, Cairo syrup, and once they get to a certain age, Greek yogurt, and once they get to a certain age, the raw meat as well. And those puppies blow up like way quicker. I mean,
but they've already got their first start because it came from mama to begin with. As they're growing in the belly, the mama's getting all that nutrition and all that good stuff. So when they come out, they're already started on it, and then through the milk they get it. So they're already growing. They're already bigger. They already are a step above any kibble fed puppy from the biggest and best bully camps across the country. They still come out really nice and healthy, and just their coats and everything. It's just I have went broke in my lifetime trying to feed my dogs raw, but because I've fed my dogs kibble in the past, in my 20s, it was all about kibble and this and kibble that. So I know the difference firsthand when the very first time I tried raw, 2 weeks after, I was hooked. I was never going to buy kibble again. I was so hooked just because of how they look, how their bodies changed, and they just looked, their eyes were so bright, and they were just so content and satisfied all day. You know, no more digging through the trash and finding stuff to eat and doing all this bad stuff because they're not satisfied internally. You know, it's just better. I've been hooked ever since, and I'll do any and everything to make it happen for him.
I mean,
that's how good it is.
All the way to the point of me learning and getting like driving to the damn butcher shop. Like when I was in Louisiana, I was driving
used to meet me halfway to get meat.
That's 3 hours every month driving.
That's where a lot of the respect for him comes in, because he's so young, and it's not often you come across a person that's going to do what he does. That he saw it too with his own eyes, and once he saw it, he was like, "Oh, this is the way to go." And he's never looked back either. So it says a lot for him when there's men with money and wisdom and all this, and they still are throwing kibble in the bowl, you know?
Like, I mean, and I feel like what you get, you get out what you put in. So, I mean, if you put in, you know, good fuel into whatever, that's your body. And it really kills me when people that are super health conscious, that say, well, I only eat this, and I'm vegan, and I work out every day, and I'm da-da-da-da-da. But you pretty much give me your dogs the equivalent to McDonald's chicken nuggets every day. Like, so it's like the same thing over and over. And I'm like, you don't give a shit about that dog, man. Get out my face with that bullshit before I smack you. I mean,
or you have breeders say, "Oh, well, I want to breed a dog that doesn't need to eat raw to look good." Well, what I say to that is, well, let me see that dog. If it looks that good, imagine what it would look like if it was on raw.
We've done it time and time again. They say a dog is a man's best friend. Treat it right, and everybody wins. That's a little insight.
How many times do y'all feed your dogs a day?
The adults, and it's all phases. So all the adults, except for the ones that are, dang, where you keep going? Get back over here. Come on, nah.
I didn't follow the rules and charge my phone. I thought I was going on my laptop, but
no, it's all good. So the adults, except for the ones that we try to keep a little heavier, because there's a difference between home weight, couch weight, and show weight. So like a lot of times, like we'll leave a dog lighter as they kind of run around the house, because injuries are definitely a thing, especially living in Georgia, all these hills and stuff. Like they could trip on something, screw themselves up. Like it's super common. So like at home, typically they'll eat like most of the adults eat 1.8 or 1.4.
1.5.
So 1.5 pounds a day. Most of the adults eat 1.5 pounds a day. But then you got the adults that are showing. So during a show week, a dog might get 1.5 pounds twice a day, or maybe 2 pounds twice a day. In Doobie's case, because she has a lot of muscle that needs to be fueled, because she burns that really quick. So, and then puppies, all the puppies eat twice a day. Anything under a year-old eating twice a day. And even the 1-year-olds, you know, some of the ones you kind of gauge it over time. Yeah. But some of them still eating twice a day.
Some of them don't take to it right away. And then, you know, some of them do. So you just play it by ear. But by 2, they're eating once a day for sure. Because it's just better for them. They're content, and they look forward to breakfast every morning.
You never have to go in there and see any food laying around. Like, they're going to lick the bowl clean, and they will slide those bowls across the floor. As long as you leave it in there, all you're going to hear is bowls sliding across the floor because they still licking the bowl.
Yeah. I'm too familiar with that.
All right. I think we have time for one more question, Brittany.
All right. So, I mean, I guess this is something I've always kind of been curious about too. Like, what type of, like, whenever you do first, like, start your breedings out, and, like, you know, of course, like, the female, like, what type of genetics, like what testings do you do, like, you know, prior to breeding a dog? Like, what do you check for? Or, like, what are, like, maybe, like, any common types of disorders? Like, what do you...
So since we have a camp that's been around for so long, I'm talking about, we have a dog that just passed away at 14, another one that's 12 that's still getting on my nerves, that just won't go to heaven for nothing in the world. So another one that's 12, another one that's, how's she, 9? 10. A 10-year-old, and then we even bred a dog is about to be 7. So like these dogs, as far as the longevity, you know, goes, the health testing wasn't really a thing that was always on the table for us. So it became on the table when we started bringing in new bloods, new dogs, and then incorporating new dogs. Then that shit became an issue, because everybody wasn't taking care. Now, as far as the longevity of these dogs, I got to get it to her, because she was doing it before me. I kind of came on board later. So with that being said, everybody wasn't doing what she was doing to make sure that these dogs were going to be what they were supposed to be. So as far as health testing now, we just started sending off like embark testing and stuff like that. And then our upcoming dogs, we're starting to do like the OFA testing, but that's not until they get a little older. But typically, I mean, as long as the dogs aren't showing any history of like producing like genetic defects and stuff like that, which none of them really are. Like with the dogs that we incorporate, like we rarely just go find random dogs to just do stuff with. So go ahead.
Let me say this. I have not incorporated testing in my program because of what he said, because I've been doing it for so long and it wasn't a big thing years ago. And then now, like you said, I have older dogs. I've never had any crazy issues pop up and everything. So I've kind of been sliding through with that. I do want to incorporate it. But with that being said, in my contract, and it's always been like this, you know, I guarantee my puppies through any genetic issues, anything. If you've had your puppy for however many years and something pops up and there's some genetic thing going on, you know, it's a full guarantee. So that's how I've always done it, even before all the testing.
So, and that's something.
So I've kind of just like been on that, and it's not nothing against health testing. I want to do that. So that is something that we are.
Yeah, so it's something that we are incorporating now. Like Tyrone just got his. Yeah.
We want to do hips and elbows and all that good stuff. And
but typically, like, you know, what I like an example, like prime example, Tyrone just got his first set of health test stuff like sent off the other day. Like, and that's just because it's becoming such a common thing, but it became such a common practice because it was so many irresponsible breeders doing irresponsible shit. And of course, now it's starting to become like a overwhelming issue. And now it's almost being like, almost like a mandate. Like people, that's the first thing people ask nowadays. Whereas you got people that really are very strategic as how they approach their breeders and stuff like that. And even like she said in the contract, if a breeder tells me if anything goes wrong with this dog, I'll replace it for free. Just give it back to me. I'll get it fixed, pet home it, and send you something better. I don't give a damn. I'm sold. I'm hooked. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to do nothing else from that point because that's a breeder that, number one, knows their blood, knows their dogs, and have been doing it long enough to guarantee that you're going to get a healthy dog. And if you don't, then you can always come back around. But a lot of times the breeders use like that as like a little back door to say, oh, well, you know, this and that. But, I mean, you know, you'll see it more prevalent with us now. But, you know, I ain't gonna say I stand against it, but I still feel as though that's always gonna be a mainstay as far as if the dog ain't right, send it back. We'll give you a better one. Always.
Well, thank you, guys.
I love that. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming on today. It was definitely an honor to have you all on here and sharing your knowledge and then your questions. I think they were all great questions. And Tristan and Molly, thank y'all so much for answering everything. A lot of people can learn from your kennel, and you guys have been doing it for so long now and doing it right. I could definitely appreciate that both as handlers and breeders, and then also y'all just being good humans. So thank you so much. I know that our time has run kind of short here and long, and I would definitely want to have y'all back on our podcast on another episode. There's just so much knowledge that you both have, and I just want to share it amongst the entire bully community.
anytime.
Any day now. No problem at all. But yeah, so thank y'all so much for joining the BGM podcast. As a reminder, I want all of our viewers to check out snubbies.com and use code BG20 for 20% off. And we will see y'all on the next Bully Girl podcast.
Thank
you.
Peace out.